UN agencies are telling Sudan's warring parties that the time is running out to prevent starvation in the Darfur region. The warning comes as clashes intensified, and this is around the northern capital of El Fasser. And with that, we know the fighting is getting in the way of life-saving aid. Close to 25 million people, more than half the population, desperately need help. Since April of last year, the country has been gripped by violence between rival militaries, leading to a severe humanitarian crisis. So for more on this, we have reached Mathilde Vu. She is a Norwegian Refugee Council advocacy manager for Sudan, and we reached her today in Nairobi. Mathilde, thank you so much for taking the time, and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I want to start by getting you to paint a picture, if you will, of the situation on the ground right now in Sudan.
Sure. I mean, it's a heartbreaking picture. It's basically a country that is collapsing in front of us. You said it earlier today. It's the world's largest displacement crisis. It's also going to be the world's largest hunger crisis. Right now, there are people who are eating leaves. They're eating cats, because there is nothing else for them to eat, to live on in regions of Darfur, for example. And it's been 1 year of everyday violence. Not a few days ago, there was a few villages being burned to the ground and people fleeing again in Darfur. And this has been ongoing like this for a year.
As you said, ongoing for a year. Could you, if you might, for our audience, bring us up to speed on how we got to this point?
It's such a complex history, right? Sudan has been, I think you auditors might know about Sudan and Darfur 20 years ago and the genocide that happened. There's been a history of violence in the country. There's been a failed transition to democracy. And there's been basically two generals that broke a war a year ago, and that civil war sort of turned into a war against civilians, with the entire capital being completely destroyed, half of the country being basically paralyzed by conflict, and the entire humanitarian crisis that is just unraveling every day. Every day there's more people dying, there's more people hungry. Soon there's going to be the rainy season with more and more people maybe exposed to cholera. And it's just been ongoing like this for a year.
And as you mentioned, the situation's getting worse. The pressure is on to find a solution, to do something here. Do you feel the international community is paying enough attention to the crisis in Sudan?
No, sadly, not at all. Not at all to the level that it should. Not at all to the level that it has a responsibility to as well. I mean, again, it's been 1 year. How many times have you heard about it? How many times have people in Canada heard about Sudan and the ethnic cleansing that happened in Darfur? I would say probably none. And the fact that there is no international attention, that there is no political attention, that the international community hasn't come up as a group to, appeal to parties to the conflict to de-escalate, appeal to parties to the conflict to let aid flow into the country, to the people in need, is very problematic. 2 weeks ago, sure.
No, please continue. 2 weeks ago, you were saying.
2 weeks ago in Paris, there was a pledging conference gathering most of the international community around Sudan and the region. We only got half of the needs covered. We were already almost half of the year in. So it means that, in 3 months' time, we're still at the very low levels of humanitarian fundings when it comes to basically one of the largest food crisis in the world.
And the World Food Programme, as we know, has warned that the time to prevent starvation is running out. So from your perspective, what needs to happen?
I have to say it's even more than running out. Like, we are in the starvation crisis, as I said earlier. Like, people are eating leaves and soils and cats. Some people are hungry and dying of hunger in the middle of a capital. The famine is already there. And sadly, we're not seeing the funding coming as fast as possible. We're also not seeing the parties to the conflict allowing aid to actually flow. So that's really the number one priority, is for the parties to the conflict to let us work and reach people and feed people now, because in a few weeks' time, it's going to be too late and people are going to die by millions.
How hopeful are you that you will see an end to this humanitarian crisis?
Hope is very scarce. I would say the only thing that makes us feel hope is when we look at how Sudanese have reacted to this crisis, how Sudanese volunteers, like people like you and I, stood up and actually helped each other. Like a large part of the humanitarian response right now is done by young volunteers in Khartoum, in Darfur. They are doing soup kitchen all across, areas of conflict. They are evacuating people. They are providing assistance. This is the hope that I have. I don't know if it's going to stop conflict, but I have the confidence that it is stopping people from dying right now. And these volunteers need to be supported as well as much as possible and need to be protected.
Mathilde, we appreciate your time, your perspective here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Mathilde Vu is a Norwegian Refugee Council advocacy manager for Sudan.